Hey, Lori's bear. Are you all ready for Yom Kippur services? Hey, little bear. Yeah, what's that? Oh, you're hungry. You're hungry for honey. Well, we've made it through about half of the fast, but we still have several hours to go. Yeah, I know we had honey last week for Rosh Hashanah, but we just need to wait a few more hours until the break the fast, then you can have all the honey you want. Yeah, I know when you became a bar mitzvah, you had all the honey you wanted, but this is different. This is Yom Kippur, right? We just need to be patient. Lord Bear, did you just growl at me? No, that was not your stomach. Look, I know that Yom Kippur is not as much fun as some of the other holidays, but it has some things going for it. There's the music, the lamenting, the repenting, No, I'm not convinced either. It's not as much fun as the other holidays, but that's kind of the point, right? We're supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable to help us think about things that we might not think about otherwise. Well, yeah, that's right. The music is beautiful. Dr. Mark on the piano, Nat's cello. Yes, Nat's cello sounds smooth as honey sometimes. Yes, it does. And that's right. Rabbi Zola usually gives a sermon. I suppose you could say that Rabbi Zola's sermons are like honey for the heart. Oh, look, Rabbi T is coming in. No, I don't think her voice drips with honey. Lord Bear, honey, later, okay? Look, everybody else is coming in. Come on, join us. We'll all watch together. Yes, there will be honey enough for everyone at the break, the fast. Pay attention.
Thank you so much for joining us for this Yom Kippur afternoon service. I am joined by the amazing clergy team here, Rabbi Stratford, Dr. Bailey, and Dr. Acord, and myself, Rabbi Terlinchamp, and we feel honored that you're joining us online today. This service will be from Mishkan HaNefesh. It is the Yom Kippur prayer book, the Machzor. You can just sit here and receive it, or you can quickly go as I'm talking now and download it from the website. It's on Amazon. It's also on the URJ Book Press site. Mishkan HaNefesh is the name, but we'll be guiding ourselves through this book as we go forward. And you'll notice that since this is online and we're trying to also be respectful of safety standards, that we have people some are streamed and who are part of our services and giving our reading. So please have patience with the technology as we go forward. We're trying to include as many voices as possible as we go forward. So we'll begin our service with a reading, and I welcome Celia and David Lassie to start the reading, and it is on page 327.
Jacob had a dream, a ladder set on the ground with its top reaching the sky. And angels of God were ascending and descending the ladder. Our sages taught, the Holy One said, Jacob, you must climb as well. But Jacob was afraid, and he did not climb up.
We want to climb higher, but we're tired, and there's so much to do, and we don't know how to rise.
God of becoming, whose name means, I will be what I will be, you are the unfinished one, ever unfolding, evolving with your creation, made in your image. We too are fluid, ever becoming who we will be.
Keep us alive to possibilities. Show us a path to grow in mind, heart, and spirit. Help us find the strength to ascend.
With our Torah service beginning on page 329 with Ki Mitzion. During the afternoon Yom Kippur service, we read from our sacred text, the Holiness Code. And in the code, it's all of our big things that we're supposed to remember about how we're supposed to keep ourselves holy. There's this concept that we're teaching over and over and over again, that we are part of a chosen people, chosen for specific tasks in the world. And however you sort of connect into that, the end message is that our job on this earth, no matter who we are, is to aspire to our holiest self through acts of love and kindness, through study, through inward introspection, through prayer, and of course, through acts of justice. We're on our second year of a really tough season. That's part of why we're streaming online, or maybe you're imagining at the end of your fast at this point and you've got a couple more hours left. There are all kinds of reasons why we need to connect back into this, and that hopefully on the ups and the downs of this last difficult year, your faith has been there for you, even as you've doubted, even as you've been angry, even as you've been sad, even as you've been happy and you've rejoiced. In all these places, our faith follows a through line all the way through it, of connecting us back to the sacred text that has been rescued from burning buildings, torn into pieces, and hidden in our pockets, carried from generation to generation, and it's made it through all kinds of persecution and pain, so that we can open it today and read it afresh and anew and find its truth within it. So with this energy and spirit, we'll begin with our Torah reading. Our first up, how we're going to do this is our Aliyah. The first people who bless it will be Karen and John Bunyan, followed by a reading from Edie Yakutis, and the English by Jeannie Rosen, and then of course finishing that blessing will be Karen and John. Our readings will be on 338 if you're following along, but we're doing the Hebrew and the English also this way, so hopefully it's accessible no matter how you access it. So I call to the Torah, Yamdu Yitzchak ben Abraham v'Sarah v'Yocheved ba'ita v'Shevech la'aliyah leTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'karabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydeber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el kol edat bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta lehem kadoshim tihiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Ish imo ve'aviv tira'u, ve'et shabbatotai tishmoru, Ani Adonai Elohechem, al tifnu el ha'elelim, ve'elohai masecha lo te'asu lachem. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
And Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the community of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, Adonai your God, am holy. Revere each of you, your mother, your father, and keep my Sabbaths. I am Adonai your God. You shall not turn to idols, and you shall not fashion for yourselves molten gods. I am Adonai your God.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam natav b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you to John and Karen Bunyan, to Edie Yakudis, and to Jeannie Rosen. Yasher Koach to you. Our second Aliyah, our Torah blesser will be Jim Shapiro, our Torah reader will be Pam Hudson, and Harriet Feigenblatt will be reading the English translation for us. Yamod Yaakov Herschel ben Zimon Chayam la'aliyah haTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai havorach. Baruch Adonai havorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Uvkutzrachem et katzir aitchem
לא תכלה פאת צדך לקצור ולקט קצירך לא תלקט וחרמך לא תעולל ופרת כרמך לא תלקט לעני ולגר תעזוב אותם אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
And when you make a sacrifice of well-being to Adonai, you shall offer it so that it will be acceptable to you. And it shall be eaten on the day of the sacrifice and on the next day. But what remains until the third day shall be burned in a fire. And if nevertheless it is eaten on the third day, it will be a foul thing, unacceptable. And one who eats it shall bear guilt for profaning the holiness of Adonai, and that person will be cut off from the people. And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not finish by reaping the corners of your field. And you shall not gather the gleanings of your harvest, and you shall not pick your vineyard bare, and you shall not gather the fallen fruits of your vineyard. Leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am Adonai, your God.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Thank you to Jim, Pam, and Harriet for leading us in our second Aliyah. For our third Aliyah, our Torah blesser will be Jan Kravitz. Our Torah reader is Jerry Kersner. And for the English translation, Ginny Lipke will be reading that for us. Yamod Yona Gila bat David la Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Liolam Voed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Blessed Adonai who is blessed. Blessed is Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples and given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah.
Amen. Lo tignavu, v'lo techachashu, v'lo teshakru, ish ba'amito, v'lo tishva'u, bishmi l'shaker, v'chilato, Hashem Elohecha, ani Adonai, lo ta'asuk es reyehecha, v'lo tigzal, lo talin pele, shakiritacha ad boker, Lo tekalel charesh v'lifnei iver, v'lo titen mikshal, v'yareto me'elohecha, ani Adonai. Lo tasu ovel b'mishpat, lo tisa panei do, v'lo tahadar panei gadol, v'tzadek tishpot amitecha, lo telech rachil be'amecha, Lo tamod al damrehecha, ani Adonai. Lo tishno es achicha, bilvavecha. Ocheach, tochiach, et amitecha. Lo tiso olav chet. Lo tikom, v'lo titor, et b'nei amecha. V'yohavto l'reacha, kamocha, ani Adonai.
You shall not steal. You shall not deceive.
And you shall not lie to one another, nor swear falsely in my name, profaning the name of your God. I am Adonai. You shall not exploit your neighbor, and you shall not rob. You shall not keep a worker's wage with you overnight until morning. You shall not curse the person who is deaf, nor put a stumbling block before a person who is blind. Rather, you should revere your God. I am Adonai. You shall not do injustice in judgment. You shall not favor one who is weak, and you shall not defer to one who is powerful. You shall judge your kin with justice. You shall not spread slander among your people. You shall not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. I am Adonai. You shall not hate your kin in your heart. Reprove your friend, thus you will not bear guilt because of a friend. You shall not seek revenge, nor bear a grudge against members of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, notein haTorah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth, implanting within us eternal life. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah.
To all of our Torah readers, our Torah blessers, and our English readers, we really appreciate you being a part of this service and being able to. We turn our attention now in the presence of our sacred Torah to those who are facing illness and pain, for well we know so many in our lives who are far from wholeness and peace and who could use a prayer for healing. So if you have a name of a loved one, a family member, or a friend who you know is in need of a prayer for healing, whether that be spiritual, physical, or mental healing, I invite you to share their name out loud or in your heart at this time. We'll join together in our Mishaberach Lecholim, our prayer for the sick, on page 273. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim, we praise you, O God, who helps make healing and hope possible, to which we say, Amen. We turn now to page 340, for the lifting of our Torah. We turn now to our Hof Torah reading. Our reading this afternoon on the holiest day of year comes from the book of Jonah. It is the book of Jonah, frankly. And it is an honor to invite Kay Boniface to lead us in the reading of the Hof Torah, which can be found on page 342 for the blessing and 344 for the text of Jonah.
Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachal b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'B'Yisrael amo u'v'nevi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim against it, for their evil deeds have risen up before me. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. And he went down to Yaffo and found there a ship heading for Tarshish, and he paid its fare and went down into it to head with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. But Adonai hurled a great wind upon the sea, a storm at sea so great that the ship was in danger of being shattered to pieces. And the sailors were frightened, cried out, each to his own god, and flung the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah had gone down into the hold, the lower deck of the vessel, and he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. And the captain approached him and said to him, "What are you doing sound asleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the God will be kind to us and we will not perish." And they said, each man to his companion, "Let us cast lots that we might know on whose account this evil event has come to us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, you who have brought this evil upon us, what is your trade and where have you come from? What is your country and who are your people?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I revere Adonai, God of heaven, who made sea and dry land." The men felt great fear and they asked him, "What have you done?" Because the men knew that he was fleeing from Adonai, for so he had told them. And they asked him, "What should we do to you to bring calm to the sea around us?" For the sea was growing more and more stormy. So he said to them, "Lift me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you. For I know that this great storm came upon you because of me." And the crew rowed hard to return to the dry land, but they could not do it, for the sea was raging more and more fiercely around them. And they called out to Adonai, saying, "Please, Adonai, please do not let us perish because of the life of this man, and do not hold us guilty of shedding innocent blood. For you, Adonai, that which you desired, you have brought about." And they lifted Jonah and hurled him into the sea. Then the sea stopped raging. The men revered Adonai. Great was their reverence. So they offered to Adonai a sacrifice and made vows. And Adonai provided a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to Adonai his God from the belly of the fish, and he said, "I called to Adonai in my distress, and God answered me. I cried out from the belly of the netherworld, and you heard my voice. Into the depths you cast me, into the heart of the sea, and the floods engulfed me. All your billowing, breaking waves swept over me, and I thought to myself, I was banished from before your eyes. Will I ever again gaze upon your holy temple? The waters closed in over me, the deep engulfed me. Rushes wrapped around my head. I descended to the low point of the mountains. The gates of the earth closed upon me forever. Yet you, Adonai my God, raised my life from the pit. When my life fainted away, I called Adonai to mind, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. They who cling to empty folly forsake their own welfare. But I, with a shout of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will fulfill. Rescue comes from Adonai. Adonai commanded the fish, and it spewed Jonah out upon dry land. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah a second time. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and call out to it the proclamation that I tell you. So Jonah got up and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Adonai. Now, Nineveh was a great city of God, 3 days' journey across. And Jonah started out and made his way into the city the distance of a 1-day walk. And he called out and said, 40 more days and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God, and they proclaimed a fast, and they put on sackcloth from the richest to the poorest. And word reached the king of Nineveh, and he got up from his throne, took off his robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he cried out and said in Nineveh, by decree of the king and his nobles, no person or beast, of flock or herd, shall taste anything. They shall not graze, and they shall not drink water. They shall be covered with sackcloth, person and beast, and shall call loudly to God. Let all turn back from their evil ways and from the violence which is in their hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent, turn back from the heat of anger so that we do not perish. God saw what they did, how they were turning back from their evil ways, and God relented from the evil planned for them and did not carry it out. But to Jonah, this was a great evil, and it made him angry. So he prayed to Adonai, saying, please, Adonai, is this not what I said when I was still in my own country? This is why I fled to Tarshish to begin with. For I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, endlessly patient and abounding in steadfast love, ready to repent of evil. And now, Adonai, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And Adonai said, is it good for you to be so angry? Then Jonah left the city, found a place east of the city, and made himself a shelter there, and sat under it in the shade, until he might see what would become of the city. And Adonai Elohim provided a gourd, and made it rise up over Jonah to give shade for his head and rescue him from his evil situation. And Jonah rejoiced with great joy because of the gourd. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that attacked the gourd, and it withered. And as the sun rose, God provided an oppressive wind from the east, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, making him faint. He begged for death, saying, it is better for me to die than to live. Then God said to Jonah, are you good and angry about the gourd? And he said, I am good and angry to the point of death. Then Adonai said, you pitied the gourd, which you neither worked for nor grew, which appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I then not have compassion for the great city of Nineveh, a place of more than 120,000 human beings, unable to tell their right hand from their left, and many beasts as well? Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah va'al ha'avodah va'al ha'nevi'im va'al Yom Kippurim hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lemechila v'leslicha u'lechapara lechavod u'letifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'mevrachim otach yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol Chai tamid leolam va'ed, udvarcha emet v'kayam le'ahad. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mochel v'soleach la'avonotenu, v'la'avonot amo beit Yisrael, u'ma'avir ashmotenu bechol shana v'shana, melech al kol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael, v'yom ha'kippurim.
Thank you, Yasher Koach to Kay, for leading us in the reading of the Hof Torah portion this afternoon. We continue with returning our Torah to the Ark, which can be found on page 352. And if you'd like, you can please rise.
Tehillah, tehillah, lecha chasidav,
We continue now on page 353 in English in the middle of the page. A precious teaching I have given you, my Torah, do not forsake it. A tree of life to those who hold fast to it. All who embrace it know happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew in our time the days of old.
Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul.
We turn now to page 356 for Hatfilah, a standing prayer, and we begin with a short reading by the late Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Ultimately, the goal of prayer is not to translate a word, but to translate the self. Not to render an ancient vocabulary in modern terminology, but to transform our lives into prayers. We join together in the words of the Avot V'Imahot, the Givurot and Kiddusha, beginning on page 356, after which each of us will take a moment of silent prayer and reflection.
Adonai, Sefat Tiftach, Ufia Gite Ilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'mefiק עולה לבני בניכם, למען שלום באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר, בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה,
Let us each take a moment now for silent prayer and reflection, whether you choose to peruse the prayers provided for you on our Machzor through page 410, or you choose to listen to the prayers of your own heart. Let's each take a moment, and then we'll join back together in a prayer for peace. And pleasure to invite Sharon Meerman to share a few words before our next song.
Chag Sameach. I'm Sharon Meerman. I've been doing the Partisans hymn, Zagnikeno, for 12 or 13 years now, I'm not sure. I've been doing it in honor of my father because this time of year is not only his Yortzeit, but he was a partisan. He was one of over 2,000 that were able to escape Treblinka by falling into pre-dug graves when shooting started and escaping to the woods to join other survivors and partisans. Zog Nikemel as du gehst dem Leschen Fed. Never say that you are walking on your last road. And wir seiden do, we are here. With these words starts and finishes the song written by Hirsch Glick in the Vilna Forest for the Partisans. Why did Herschel Glick write Zogny Camel? To give courage to a people with their backs against the wall, people the world seemed all too willing to forget. With time, the song spread through all the forests, not just of Eastern Europe, but actually from all over the world, to join all those who were fighting the Germans and their allies, or who after the war were remembering the uprising and fights the Jews fought against their latest enemy. For those who think the Jews went to slaughter like lambs, let me remind you that nobody, except for England and Russia, resisted the Germans longer than the Warsaw Ghetto Jews, whose uprising lasted from the 19th of April, that's the day that's selected for the worldwide remembrance, Yom HaShoah, until the 13th of May, when the last 10 survivors escaped the ghetto through the sewers. Not even 1 year later, when all the non-Jewish population of Warsaw, much larger in numbers and much better equipped, decided to rise against the Germans, they couldn't hold them back this long, even when the Russians were already at the doorstep of the city and the Germans were already losing the war. What's more, nobody but the Jews organized and carried out uprisings inside the concentration camps, not even the many Allied soldiers, especially Russian and Western European, taken to these camps by the Germans. Still, the Jews, starving and without any outside support, fought back and actually won in a few cases, and as in Sobibor and for a short period of time in Treblinka, which was after the uprising burned to the grounds to eliminate any testimony of the dead and the fighters. Even Auschwitz saw an uprising. Yes, Jews never said they were walking on their last journey, so much so that even inside the worst ghettos, they managed to maintain an educational system to teach children about their culture and traditions, fully convinced that would survive this enemy. By honoring these people, our purpose is to offer contemporary youth an inspirational model and a more accurate perspective of events that took place during the Holocaust, focusing on the Jewish response and Jewish life rather than just on Nazi atrocities. We hope to give young Jews a perception of the Jewish fighters as real people with everyday concerns, but most importantly, a passion for life. And I'm going to sing Zogny Camel in Yiddish, because that's how it was originally written. Zogny Camel hast du gestem letzten Weg, Coachim Lemplayen vor Steinbläuer Tag, kommen weg nach unser Weißgebänge Show, Sveta Poigt und unser Trottner Seidendoh. Kommen weg nach unser Weißgebänge Show, Sveta Poigt und unser Trottner Seidendoh. Im Palmenland des weichen Land für Schnee, wir kommen an mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh, und gut gehalten ist der Spritz von unser Blut, Spratzen wett um unser Gruber, unser Mut. Und wo gewalten ist der Spritz von unser Blut, Spratzen wett um unser Gruber, unser Mut. Es wird die Morgen sind begilden uns dem Pein, und der Neck wird versteben mit dem Fein. Nur halb versammeln wird die Sonne der Kajor, wie a Parol so gehen das Lippen so das Ohr. Nur halb versammeln in der Sonne der Kajor, wie a Parol so gehen das Lippen door so door. Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und mit Blei. Es ist nicht kein little fun, a Vogel läuft frei. Das hat a Volk der Vision, Vater wie gewinn. Das Lied geswungen mit der Garnes hinterhen. Das hat a Volk der Vision, Vater wie gewinn. Das Lied geswungen mit der Garnes hinterhen. Sollt nicht keiner, was du gehst im letzten Weg. Gott Himmeln weihen vor Steinbläuer Tag. Kommen wird nach unser Weißgebänge Show. Es wird erpeugt in unser Trott, mir seiden do. Kommen wird nach unser Weißgebänge Show. Es wird erpeugt in unser Trott, mir seiden do.
You must not let yourself consider this the end, when skies of lead above you threateningly bend. The longed-for day will come at last, we have no fear. Our steps will be like drums proclaiming we are here. From land that's green with palms to land that's white with snow, we wander on with all our grief, with all our woe. And where our blood has flowed, there we shall prove at length that we have doubled all our courage, all our strength. The morning sun will gild the morrow with its glow. The dismal yesterdays will vanquish with our foe. But should the sun of dawning prove to be delayed, our song must live through generations unafraid. This song is written with our blood and not with lead. It's not the song of birds that have no fear or dread. 'Twas sung by people holding guns while there they stood, midst falling walls protecting them as best they could. And so don't let yourself consider this the end, when skies of lead above you threateningly bend. The longed for day will come at last, we have no fear. Our steps will be like drums proclaiming we are here.
Thank you to Sharon Meerman. We continue on page 406, with the words of Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha, barcheinu avinu kulanu kechad, be'or panecha, ki be'or panecha natata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha.
We turn now to page 416 for the vidui, the short confession. On this holiest of days, we confess our sins. We do so not as individuals, but as a group. For all of us are guilty of sins and transgressions and have missed the mark this year. But as a community, we stand together in support of one another in an effort to pledge ourselves to do better in the year to come. As we read the alphabet of woes, it is customary to pound on one's chest gently as you read each one as a way of knocking on our hearts and asking ourselves to open our hearts to new possibilities and new actions and new responsibilities this year. So we'll join together in Ashamnu at the bottom of page 416.
Ay 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 Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gatzalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
ay 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 Hevinu,
Hevinu,
V'hirshanu,
V'hirshanu,
Tzadnu,
Zad.
חמסנו, טפלנו שקר, טפלנו שקר, איי 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 יעצנו רע, יעצנו רע, כיזבנו, לצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, צררנו, קישינו עורף, איי 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 רשענו, שיחדנו, תייבנו, טעינו, תיתנו.
Of these wrongs we are guilty, we betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. We continue now on page 418. Page 418 with Al Chet Shechotanu Lefanecha for a longer vidui. We join together in Hebrew, then in English. Al Chet Shechotanu Lefanecha bizadon uvishgaga, ve'al Chet Shechotanu Lefanecha bishvuat shav. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through insincere promises. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha biflilut, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha bikalut rosh. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha beyetzer hara, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha be'einayim ramot. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through condensation. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'hirhur halev, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'dibor peh. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouth. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'chachash uvchavaz, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'honat re'ah. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha bisinat chinam, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha bividui peh. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through hypocrisy. Ve'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu, michal lanu, kapar lanu.
Slichot,
these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Page 420. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha begalui uvisater, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha bivli da'at. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world through our thoughtlessness. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha bichilul Hashem, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha bitum'at safatayim. The ways we have wronged you by profaning your name in public, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha birchilut, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha bizilzul horim umorim. The ways we have wronged you through gossip and rumor, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha bitzarut ayin, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'masa uvmatan. The ways we have wronged you through narrow-mindedness, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha bigalui arayut, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha b'machachel uvishmateh. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechotanu lefanecha bitzumet yad, ve'al chet shechotanu lefanecha beratzat raglayim lahara. The ways we have wronged you by betraying trust, and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice. Ve'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu, michal lanu, kapar lanu. Failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement.
Avinu Malkeinu, as Joseph wept and opened a forgiving heart to his brothers, let our hearts be open to those who ask our forgiveness. Avinu Malkeinu, as the high priest entered the innermost shrine to atone, let our acts of tshuva touch our innermost life. Avinu Malkeinu, as Jonah cried out to God, I thought I was driven away. Let us reach for the divine from the depths of our being. Avinu Malkeinu, as you said to Moses and Israel, you shall be holy, for I am holy. Let us affirm today, we shall pursue holiness in our everyday lives, revering mother and father, providing for the poor, rising before the aged, loving neighbor and stranger as ourselves. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. We continue with our Avinu Malkeinu prayer on page 428. We will do the Hebrew and the English, and then we'll sing together. Typically, we rise for this prayer, and if you either can do that from your own space now, or just rise up in your chair and let your whole body fill with air and breath and holiness. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu leman shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh alenu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, zechor ki afara nachnu. Avinu Malkeinu, remember, we are but dust of the earth. Avinu Malkeinu, tehei hasha'ah hazot, sha'at rachamim ve'et ratzon milfanacha. Avinu Malkeinu, let this hour in your presence be a time of compassion and acceptance. Avinu Malkeinu, chamol aleinu v'al olaleinu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'an tevuchim al Yehudecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those slain, for their devotion to you. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'an harugim al shem kodechecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those killed because they were Jews. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'an ba'eh va'esh u'bamayim al kiddush mecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those who suffered fire and water to sanctify your name. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'onenu, ki ein ba'un ma'asim, aseh ema'un shadaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Our next prayer is called Aleinu Hagadol, the Great Aleinu. And it's similar to the Aleinu that you might be familiar with. But what's different in this afternoon service is that we're supposed to prostrate ourselves, not just by the little bow we usually do, but fully to the ground as completely as possible, almost so that our nose is touching the ground. And then we're supposed to lift ourselves up. You might be asking, but Jews aren't supposed to bow. What's this about? Why are we making ourselves so humble that we're laying on the ground? And both the rabbis do it, and the reason that I choose to do it personally is that at this point in the day, you're hungry, you're tired, you're at the end in a lot of ways. And it's not so different than other valleys you've been in emotionally, maybe physically. We're at the very point of being pushed physically and emotionally and spiritually, and it sort of takes getting to the bottom, getting to the very ground, so that you can rise up, you can lift yourself up. So if you're with somebody in your home right now as you're watching this, one of you can lay down, the other one can help up. You can both do it. If you're alone, you could do it that way. If you're in your chair, you just want to try bending as far as you can. Or otherwise, just sort of think of it spiritually in that place of finding yourself grounded in a place of utter humility in the face of this day and what this day is asking of you. There's no point to any of this holiday stuff, if it doesn't permeate you, if it doesn't work for you. That as much as you pray and you beat your chest and you lie on the ground, if you don't do it after this day, if you don't let it actually reach you, it doesn't change you for the rest of the year, there's no point to what we're doing right now. So this is the point of the service that's saying, maybe all the words aren't working for you. Maybe you're a physical person. How do we embody this thing? And that's how we'll walk to this next prayer. Find a way to find this in your body, not just in your head. We love our heads here in the Judaism world, but find it in your head, find it in your spirit, find it in your body. With that, we continue 432 as you rise, if you're able to, and begin the process.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol latet gdula lo yotzeh breshit shehu noteh shamayim yel yosed aretz umoshav yekara bashamayim mimal ushchinat uzo b'govhei maromim hu Eloheinu Elod. Koraim u'mishtachvim u'modim lifnei melech malkei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
As we begin the conclusion of this part of our service, the Yom Kippur afternoon service, please know that wherever you found this service, on our website, through social media, that Yizkor service, which typically comes after the afternoon service, is available for your to stream online for you, as well as in the Ela, the evening service. There's still a journey to go in the Yom Kippur service schedule. But for this one in particular, I just want to thank my colleagues, to the amazing Rabbi Stratford, to our wonderful cantor, Dr. Acord, and to Dr. Bailey, and of course to Micah for making this possible. To our many readers, it's a hard season not to have readers come up on the bima. It's hard to do it online, all these different things. So thank you for making it personal and for bringing so much of your wisdom to the table. Thank you to David and Celia Lassie, to John and Karen Bunyan, to Edie Yakudas for reading Torah, for Jeannie Rosen, Jim Shapira, Pam Hudson for reading Torah, Harriet Feigenblatt, Jaren Kravitz, Jerry Kersner for reading Torah, Jenny Lipke, Sharon Merman for sharing your gorgeous story and for chanting for us the partisan song in the Yiddish, and to Dr. Kate Boniface for all the many years and the beautiful way that you read the story of Jonah. Thank you to all of you for participating. Please know that if you are not part of our Temple Sholom community, we hope that you are now as you're part of this, that we always welcome you. Please let us know what we can do to reach out to you. And if you're already part of our community, thank you for being a sustaining member. Thank you for making these services possible. And may it be a sacred season for all of you. We'll conclude with Kaddish de Rabbanan on page 438. Yitgadal v'kadash shemei Rabba, v'alma divrach hirute, v'amlich machute, b'chayachon uvyomachon uv'chaye dacho be'Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach leolam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei Gusha Richu, La'ela u'la'ela mikol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru, Amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon, v'al kol Talmidei Talmidehon, di v'rata haden, v'di v'chol atar v'atar, yehei lahon l'chol shlama rabba, china v'chistacha v'rachamim v'chayim arichin, umzone reviche ufrakava mikodam avuhon de vishmaya va'ara ve'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh v'rachamav shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru, Amen. Shana Tova.